Hello, welcome back to our Master JavaScript course. In our previous videos, we covered the introduction, environment setup, and JavaScript variables. Today, we'll dive into the world of JavaScript data types, providing you with an in-depth and comprehensive understanding. Let's get started. In JavaScript, data types are the classifications of the different types of data we can work with. They are crucial because they help us understand how we manipulate and store data in our programs. There are two types of data types: primitive data types and reference data types. We will be discussing each of these categories and their respective data types in details. Primitive data types are the most basic and simple data types in JavaScript. They are immutable, meaning their values cannot be changed after they are created. There are 6 different primitive data types in JavaScript: string, number, BigInt, Boolean, undefined, and null. Let's discuss each of these in more detail. All right, let's start with strings. Strings represent a sequence of characters. We can create strings by enclosing a sequence of characters in single or double quotes, or using backticks for template literals. For example, let's make this a single quote here. Hello world can be written in single quotes, in double quotes, or in backticks for template literals. Numbers in JavaScript can represent both integers and floating point values. There's only one number data type, unlike other programming languages that have several separate data types for integers and floats. For example, here integer is 42, float is 3.14, and you can mix and match them. So there's only one number data type in JavaScript. Well, sort of, because BigInt is a newer data type introduced in JavaScript to handle larger integers than the number data type can represent. We can create a BigInt by appending an n to the end of an integer. For example, here we have a huge number, much longer than what the number data type can handle. But we append n to it, and suddenly JavaScript is able to work with this big integer. Booleans represent true or false values. They are often used to represent the rest of a comparison or the state of a condition. For example, is true equals true, is false equals false. The undefined data type represents a variable that has been declared but not yet assigned a value. So here we have declared not defined, but it has no value. So it's kind of like an empty box. And if the box is empty, it is undefined. It may be hard to remember the difference between the null data type and undefined data type. But remember that for undefined, the box is empty, that we have not yet assigned a value to the box. Here, we have let empty value equals null. So there is a value inside of the empty value box here. It is the value of null. So it has a value, an explicit value of null. This differentiates itself from undefined. So that's how to remember. Undefined has nothing inside the box, whereas null has something inside of the box. Reference data types are more complex than primitive data types. They are mutable, meaning their values can be changed after they are created. There are 2 main reference data types in JavaScript: object and array. We will discuss these more in detail. Let's start with objects. Objects are used to store collections of key value pairs, where each key is a string, and the value can be any data type. We can create objects using object literal syntax like this. Let person equals, we have a curly brace here, name John. age 30. Is student true? So you see, name is the key, John is the value. So here we have an example of a string, a number, and a Boolean. So if we were to print this to the console, we can do so using dot notation. So person, which represents the object, dot name would refer to John. Person dot age, 30. I don't know why it says 31 here. And console.log person is student. So this is another way that we can, instead of dot notation, and the output would be true. Note that these brackets is called bracket notation, and the dots are called dot notation, just to clarify. Arrays are used to store ordered collection of values, where each value can be of any data type. We can create arrays using the array literal syntax like this. Let numbers equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or we can actually mix the data types inside of an array. Let mixed data equal apple, 3.14, a number, and a Boolean true. Now we can access and modify the elements of array using their indices, which are zero-based. So 0 represents the first value of the index here. So this would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we wanted to get the value of the first index, we can console.log numbers, and inside of the brackets, we can put 0. If we if we would like the second value of mixed data, we would mix data 1, which would give us 3.14 actually. But here we would change it. Okay, so this would be changing. And so let's change it to 2.17, but that would change the value of 3.14 here. So we can change it or we can find the value here. To find out the data type of a variable or value, we can use the type of operator. It returns a string representing the data type. For example, console.log type of hello world. This would be a string. 42, a number. True, a Boolean. Note that objects and arrays are both type object. Now, note that type of returns object for both objects and arrays. To differentiate between the two, you can use the array.isArray method like this. So if you were to ask, is this array an array? It would come up as true. Is this object an array? Would come up as false. And this would make a lot more sense if this array had a name, like array1 or something. Then we could put the name inside of here and the name of the object, but we could tell whether or not it was an array or not. Now, one tricky thing about JavaScript is that because it is dynamically typed, which means variables can change their data types during runtime, that it has a property called type coercion. Type coercion is the process of converting one data type to another implicitly. For example, let result equals string value of 10 plus a number of 20. Now this number is coerced to a string, and the result is 1020. 1020, like so. This is a very weird property of JavaScript, but it is one that is inherent in JavaScript itself. Now, let string equal string 42. This is performing explicit type coercion using methods like string, number, Boolean, and %. So here we can convert 42 into being a string. This string value of 3.14 to be a number. There's Boolean 1, true, and parse int. Parse int will parse the string and return a value of 42, a number. Well, that's it for our comprehensive guide to JavaScript data types. We've covered primitive and reference data types, the type of operator, and type coercion and conversion. Now, in the next video, we'll explore control structures, including conditionals and loops. Be sure to subscribe and stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and happy coding.